All right. About 100 years ago, that was the most popular sport in the United States. We know from surviving records of how many tickets were sold, how much business was done. You can also tell if you watch movies from that period, if you read literature from that period. Most of the other sports that are now popular in the United States either didn't exist or were very new. But boxing goes back thousands of years. Back then, it was pretty common for parents to send their sons to boxing lessons. It was considered very, very normal if boys got in fistfights repeatedly. That was how you were supposed to settle a disagreement. It was healthy if you got into fistfights with the other boys from time to time, and you were expected as you grew to adulthood to know how to fight with your fists enough that you could defend yourself. Today, in the United States, that's not true. Instead, what a lot of moms and dads do with their sons and their daughters is they send them to different lessons. That started in the late 1940s, and there are some important differences. Boxing has rules. There are things you're not allowed to do, but the way you win at boxing, you hurt the other boxer until they can't fight anymore. The best win of all is knocking them unconscious with your fist. If you can do that, you are a great boxer, even though we know that causes brain damage. Now, in martial arts, it's important to show respect. A good hit in the middle of sparring shows that you are skillful. It shows that you've learned, you've practiced, and you may have outcompeted your opponent. But when they compete, the object is not to hurt their opponent until they can't continue. It's just fundamentally a completely different sport. So sometimes people find out my job, that I'm a college professor, and they say, well, what do you teach? And I have a list of things I teach. One of them is what this class is about, and I say I teach argument. And people will sometimes say, I hate arguing. I never argue. Anyone who argues with me, I just never talk to them again. Arguing is always bad. And when I hear that, I feel really sad. Because when they hear the word argue, they think it means that. They think it means anger, screaming, saying whatever you can to hurt the other arguer until they either cannot continue or refuse to continue. That is not what I mean when I say argue. In the communication field, we call that verbal aggression. Next week's class is all about the research, and there is a body of research about the difference between argument and verbal aggression. Argument, on the other hand, means you say what you believe, you then give the evidence and the reasoning, you invite other people to correct any mistakes or to explain their different opinion and their evidence and their reasoning. And the whole time, you don't treat it as an attack on you when they either disagree or when they think that you are mistaken. When you do that with another person, that is arguing. When I was 13 years old, I competed 40 years ago, by the way. I'm 53 now. When I was 13 years old, I competed in debate for the very first time. And, not making this up, the first debate tournament I ever entered at age 13, I won the tournament. First place. I never won another tournament. That was it. I peaked the first time I tried it. Through high school, honestly, I kept competing in debate and I was terrible. Really embarrassingly bad. But I lived, come on in. Oh, you're fine. Have a seat. I lived very close, about 100 miles from Baylor University in Waco, Texas. And right about then, through a strange accident of history, they had the best college debate team in the United States. When I was a senior in high school, they won the national debate tournament. When I was a sophomore and on the team, we won it again. That's twice in 3 years, which is pretty good. I decided that is what I wanted to do with my life. So I majored in communication studies because at most American colleges, the debate team is housed in the communication department. I stayed at Baylor, got a master's degree in communication, went to the University of Georgia to work on my doctorate. I was an assistant coach with the debate team at Georgia. One of the teams I coached, they didn't win the national championship, but they came in second place, so we were pretty proud. And then off I went to my first job in higher education. Arizona State University hired me to be their head debate coach. And I did that for 2 years. Now at that point, I was 29 years old. 13 to 29, 16 years having my life consumed by one game that I was just playing over and over again. Now, it's a good game. We will talk about why. And I still have a lot of fondness for it. But that's a long time to play one game and not have much of a life outside it. So I got burned out. And I left coaching debate and I went into teaching full time. Now, I still teach classes in argument and debate because of all those years that I really didn't think about much else. It also helps that my doctorate is in argumentation. Most of my journal articles, my published research, is in argumentation. And something we're going to do in this class every time it meets, usually not 10 minutes into class, usually right at 1:20, is we're going to play a little game. A little fun game, not for a grade, but it is how we will start class. We're going to play it right now. We're just going to go around the room, and you're going to tell everybody one thing that you like. And it could be anything. It could be something here in this room. It could be your favorite dessert, your favorite TV show. But every week, we're going to take the game up a little bit. We're going to do it now. And when we are done, I'll tell you how it will be different next week and how it will change from week to week. So, my name is Doyle, and I like arguments.
My name is Jesse, and I like Blue Jays.
Perfect. Very good. Very good.
My name is Kevin. I like instruments.
Very good.
My name is Shira, and I like music.
Very good.
My name is Denji, and I like music.
Very nice.
My name is Kama. I like English.
Very good.
My name is Koya. I like to play soccer.
Love it.
My name is Yoshi. I like to play some sports.
Very good.
My name is Kay. I like to work out.
Very good.
My name is Suresh. I like ice cream.
Woo.
My name is Ira. I like dancing.
Very good.
My name is Manato. I like to play soccer.
Very good.
My name is Mario. I like dogs.
Very good.
My name is Chris. I like video games.
Love it.
My name is Wakana. I like pizza. My name is Lily. I like to enjoy the walk.
Very good.
My name is Diaz. I like to go out.
Very good.
My name is Jagdish, and I like to read.
Love it.
My name is Nick, and I like the 70s.
There you go.
My name is Han, and I like writing.
Very good.
My name is Brenda. I like listening to music.
Very nice.
My name is Angie, and I like to read novels.
Very good.
My name is Rama. I like to play soccer.
Okay, that is the easiest the game is ever going to be. Here's what we're doing next week. You should come prepared with one thing about you that you're proud of, that you like to brag about. You have a whole week to think about this. And then when we go around the room, we're not just going to go from desk to desk. I'm going to randomize the order. And the person who goes before you, you have to argue with them. Make one argument. So I might say, one thing I'm proud of is that I'm bald. And the person who goes after me might say, yes, but your head is so shiny it hurts other people's eyes. One thing I'm proud of is, and then they say, whatever. Whoever follows says, yes, but, and explains why it's not a good thing to be proud of. You have a whole week. Next week in class, I'll tell you what to come ready with the following week, but the following week you're going to give 2 reasons. And the person coming after you has to disagree with both of them. The following week, you'll give 3 reasons, and the person after you will disagree with each of the 3 in order. You have a whole week. Next week, it'll be unfamiliar. You'll quickly get the hang of it. This is something a whole lot of beginning debaters do to make it very automatic. If someone gives 3 or 4 reasons why, you listen for each of them, and then you just go through them in order. That's wrong because, that's wrong because, that's wrong because. So next week, one thing you're proud of about yourself, and when you hear the person before you, one reason they shouldn't be proud of that. And we're all being silly and playful. The reasons why can be made up. And because it's a game, don't worry about hurting people's feelings. We're just being silly to practice the act of arguing and to put it into almost muscle memory. All right. What I want to do, this is probably the only time I think this class will not go the full 100 minutes. I'm going to tell you a few things about me so you can start getting to know me, because I first set foot on this campus on Saturday. So I'm new to everybody. Did you also?
No.
Oh, okay. Did you see me? Or?
No, I was just saying, oh, wow.
Oh, perfect. I got to hold on to that. I also teach nonverbal. I like that. Cool. Anyway, so I'm going to tell you some things about me, and then I'm going to give you a tour of the class and explain how everything in here is going to work. So the first thing, this is my name. This is how they've been spelling it in Japanese. I phrase it that way because this is not the way I want it spelled in Japanese. My business cards say that. People turn Doyle into Doir. Doir does not sound to me like my name. On the other hand, Doyo, I have a lot of friends in the United States who call me Doyo as a nickname. So, what I would like is for you to call me that. If you've got such a complete set of English phonemes or from another language that L and R are effortless, then Doyle is fine.
Sorry, is this cross-cultural studies B?
It is. Come on in. You are absolutely fine. And I've been recording, so you can listen to the first 14 minutes when you have a chance. You're welcome. Okay, if the L would trip you up, then Doyo works fine. I like being called Doyo. What I usually do when students have never met me, what I have done at all of the universities I teach at, actually I realize, let me stop right there. There's nothing on this slide presentation explaining why I'm here and why I'm brand new. One of the events we do in speech and debate is impromptu speaking, speaking with no preparation. I am about to give an impromptu speech. I teach at a university in the United States, but the United States has a foundation, the Fulbright Foundation. They've been around since the 1940s. And every year, they take some American college professors and pay for those professors to spend half a year or an entire year in different countries around the world. I applied for a Fulbright grant. I was given one. I arrived in Japan in September. My host university is Tsuda University, Tsudajuku in Kodaira. They have a guest house on campus. That's where I'm living. Last semester, I taught also at Tokyo Gaidai, nonverbal communication and other things. And this class, argument and debate, I taught at Tsuda last fall. So now I'm starting up at Tokyo International. I'm here for just one semester, and then I'm going back to the United States. Tuesday, I'm teaching a class that some of you are in. How Christianity helps explain the way Westerners communicate. And then on Fridays, I'm teaching this class, and that's it. One thing I should mention, I did not have an office on this campus until about half an hour ago. I am now in with the GTIs in the annex, which may be hard for you to find. What I plan to do is treat the hour before this class as my office hour. And then, if you need me to, if you let me know in advance, I can also stay 1 hour after class. So you can get me between noon and 1, or if you ask, between 3 and 4. And you can come to the annex, or I can come to you. All right, let me go back to talking about the things I usually use to introduce myself. Very commonly, people jump to the wrong conclusion when they learn things about me. When they hear that I am a college professor, that I've been teaching college for 30 years. There are ranks you can go through as a professor, assistant professor, associate professor, or full professor, and my rank is full professor. They think a few things. They think that I have all the answers, that I have a head full of facts, and that I can answer any question they have, pop off the science. Actually, you already know I came into higher education as a debate coach. And what academics often do is they argue over what the right answer is, what is the right way even to ask the question. When we debate in here, we will debate different kinds of topics. The first kind of topic we will debate questions of fact. And often students say to me, you can't debate facts. Facts are not debatable. And we are going to challenge that idea. Come right on in. You're not the only one to arrive a little late. Find a place, get comfortable. Okay, a second thing. When people hear that I'm a college professor, they think I was always a good student and school was always easy for me. Do you know, I graduated in the bottom half of my high school class. Do you know, in college, at American colleges, the grade point average system is 4 for an average of an A, 3 for an average of a B, 2 for an average of a C, and then 1 and 0 are really bad news. All the way through my years in college, my GPA was below a 3. I reached a B average in college, my last semester in college, which was also my 5th year in college. So, if you are at any point struggling and college is really difficult for you and you don't want to speak up because you're ashamed and you think, I won't understand because college was always easy for me. I failed 3 classes in college. After you fail a class, you don't feel very good, But the sun comes up the next morning, whether you like it or not, and you roll up your sleeves and you get back to work. And I have been there. A second thing, I've kind of mentioned it by saying that I went to Baylor. But in the United States, this is where I'm from. I'm from Texas. And when people hear that, they sometimes think that I was a cowboy growing up, cooked over an open fire, but I actually grew up in a big city. This is the city I grew up in. And if you're not sure what you're looking at, it doesn't look that different from parts of Tokyo. Beyonce is from Texas. So if you have certain expectations of what someone is like if they are from Texas, I might surprise you a little bit. Third and finally, I will mention briefly, I am a Christian, a practicing, believing Christian. Now, the students who are in the class that meets on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, heard 40 minutes on that. And because it is the subject matter of that class, I talk a lot about it in there. In here, I have only one or two things to say. First, some people think if you're a Christian, you don't believe in science. And they think that Christian college professors don't pay attention to research, they just sit and read their Bible all day. Well, Francis Collins is the director of the National Institutes of Health in the United States, one of the most influential scientists in mapping the human genome, and a devout Christian. At my university, I have friends who are professors of physics, chemistry, math, and they don't see any conflict between their beliefs and their academic field. The one other thing that might come up at some point in the class. When I taught at SUDA last term and taught argumentation, we had one day that I'm not sure if I'm going to bring to this class, but it was about what research shows about differences in argument behavior between Japanese arguers and arguers in the United States and in Europe. And what they found was there are a few things. Western arguers defer to authority a lot less. And they traced that to the widespread teaching and practice of Christianity. Because they said the Confucian ideal in Japan, not to say that people in Japan are practicing Confucianists, not everyone in the United States is a Christian. But the culture has such a powerful bedrock of those belief systems that you can see it in how people communicate. So, those are some things that people sometimes, when they hear and learn them about me, they jump to a wrong conclusion. A few more details just before we get to talking about how the class is going to work. That's where I grew up. These days, I live there, in Oregon. Tokyo International University has an American Studies program. It meets at Willamette University, which is in the state capital of Oregon. As a matter of fact, in Oregon, we don't have as many trains as you have in Japan, but we have one, and it goes right past where I live. And when I ride that train, I go right past the Tokyo International University student housing. It's right across the street from the train station. So if any of you ever do that program, send me an email. I'll take you out in Salem and show you a good time. This is the university where I teach, Bushnell University. That is our one and only cherry blossom tree. These are some of my favorite students. She's a women's soccer player. He's a cross-country runner and student body president. He's on the esports team. You won't be surprised that he's a basketball player, was team MVP and first team all-conference this term. I say that to say, my university in the United States is student-athlete heavy. I believe between 30 and 40% of the student body are scholarship athletes. I have gathered that Tokyo International University has a lot of student athletes. When they were giving me the tour on Saturday, I asked that question because I've seen the posters on the trains, and just about every one of them, it's someone playing their sport. I have been at that university, Bushnell, for 15 years. So I have taught a lot of student athletes, and I have seen some very impressive work ethic, and I have helped students when they needed to travel because their team was competing. There is an award given in the communication major at Bushnell for the most outstanding student at graduation. It's named for a men's soccer player. So that is part of my background in dealing with student athletes. I threw this picture in just because I like it. We got some snow a few years ago. That's supposed to be me. This isn't very long right now, but it used to come all the way down to here. And the reason, probably the biggest reason that I am not wearing a mask, I have one with me, just in case. I'm not wearing a mask because when I have to wear a mask, I have to keep this cut short. Because if I have a mask on my face, this crawls up into my mouth and I get a mouthful of hair, which is as disgusting as it sounds. Now it's April. The Japan Rail is saying it's okay if you don't wear a mask on the train. The school systems are saying it's individual choice. And I'm seeing a lot of people keep their masks on even outside. Now you individually do what you're comfortable with. I am a gaijin from the United States, and your individual choice is fine with me. But the reason I'm not wearing a mask is I am tired of cutting this thing short. The science tells us the best protection against COVID is a well-ventilated room. And do you notice I've propped both the doors and I have the window open? Distancing is good, masks are good, ventilation is better. So, unless the administration tells me differently, this is going to stay wrapped up. All right. One or two more little bits of trivia. This is my most recent graduating class from Bushnell, from before I came here. I'm very proud of them. She is starting her second year, she's finishing her first year in law school, and I haven't checked in on them lately. I need to find out what they're doing. And finally, I've mentioned a couple of times being bald. I wasn't already bald. This is me at 25. It's perfectly okay to laugh. I laugh too. I don't have pictures, but a few months, actually the better part of a year after that was taken, it got all the way down to the bottom of my shoulder blades. And then soon after that, I cut it all off, and I've never grown it out again. Instead, I grow it out on my chin, and a few years ago, it looked like that. Now, I'm glad it doesn't look like that today because of how windy it is outside. I also sometimes, when I looked like that, I sometimes scared people because I live in a city that has a very big homeless population. And more than one person told me I look homeless. All right. So that is to get you started on who I am. Let us jump now over to Moodle. And the first thing I want to do, actually, let me just go from the top down. The very first assignment that you have in this class, which is tiny, 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 the daily communication thermostat. You are going to complete this after each class meeting. It is due by midnight, the day of the class. So today, at midnight. It is not very complicated. What's your opinion of how fast Doyle is talking? You can tell me I need to slow down. Even if I go the right speed today, 6 weeks from now, I might have sped up again. So I want to hear from you collectively after every class meeting. Am I speeding up too much? Choice of English words, to beginner, to advanced. If there's something you wish I would stop, type it in that space. If there's something I should start, type it in that space. Something I should continue. What part of today's class was most worthwhile? What part was least worthwhile? And at the bottom, put your name in so I can give you credit. That is 5%, 5% of your grade in the class if you do it every single time the class meets. And I started to apologize on Tuesday because I thought it doesn't have much to do with the class, but it does, because these are classes in communication. And you're giving me feedback on what kind of job I'm doing. I could get the model of communication out and show you feedback. This is you giving me feedback. Let me put that away. The question box. Every time this class meets, I am going to plan to come with about between 40 minutes and 1 hour, actually probably a little bit less, on that day's new topic. Then you are going to form duos, partnerships. Today, you're going to get to pick who it is you want for your partner. After today, I'm going to assign partners. And you'll have a different partner every time the class meets. All you're going to do is take about probably 5 minutes, 10 might work better. Talk about what's happened today that you understood and what happened today that you need explained more. And then you'll click on Question Box. Question Box, that is a Moodle assignment. You click on Add Submission, and you type your question into this box, and you save it. And at the end of the 10 minutes, I will be able to pull up all the questions. And then I will spend the last about 15 minutes of class answering those questions. Here's why I'm doing it that way. At Gaidai and at Tsuda, repeatedly, over and over, I would get to the end of an idea and I would say, this is a great time for me to break, and anyone who has any questions at all, let's hear them. And the room sounded like that. Then I got my evaluations back and they said we would have appreciated a chance to do some talking ourselves. So what I'm going to do, and I had a few students at both universities tell me, it's not our way to do it in front of everybody. Let us talk to each other. So we're going to build it into the class. And you're going to deliver to me the questions you come up with. This, by the way, I forgot to mention this. But I can go into this, I'll do it. I'll go into the settings and, I'd have to go back to professor mode. This is set to be anonymous. So when I look at the questions, I'm not going to know who asked it. That's deliberate. So if it's a question you don't feel comfortable with, but you want to know anyway, put it in. Your name will not be on it. Back we go to Moodle. The syllabus I want to look at for a moment to show you the two parts, the two divisions of the class. Week 1 is today, obviously. Then, weeks 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, we're going to talk about particular elements of argument theory, and then the nuts and bolts, the machinery of debating. And then on June 16th, we're going to have our first debates. The 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th, everybody is going to debate. Let me right now give you tentatively what I plan for the format to be. About an hour ago, there were 24 students on my roster. if we still have 24 students in June, here will be the format. It is based on World University style. There will be, on each team, 4 debaters. Let's say the topic is, dogs make better pets than cats. There will be a speaker randomly assigned who will give a 2-minute speech about why dogs make better pets than cats. The first speaker for the government side speaking in favor of the topic, in support of it. Then, the first speaker from the opposing side will give a 3-minute speech. Most of the speech will be explaining why cats make better pets, but part of the speech will be, now my opponent said this, but that's wrong because, and my opponent said this, but that's wrong because, just like that game we're going to play at the beginning of every class meeting. Then, a speaker in favor of the topic will talk about dogs being better. Then, a speaker in favor of cats. There will be 4 speakers on each side. After 8 speeches, we're done. Everybody who was not debating is judging. You are therefore, at the end of that debate, expected to vote. Do you think dogs make better pets? Do you think cats make better pets? And of the 8 debaters, actually the way it's going to work, there would be 2 debates that you would judge and not participate in, so there would be 16 debaters. You will rank who the top 4 debaters are you heard. Who spoke the best, who made the best arguments, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you have your own debate. And it might be, is ice cream is a better dessert than cake? And I know how you would vote. So, then what we will do, we'll have fact debates, everybody debates. We'll have value debates, everyone is in a debate. We'll have policy debates, everyone is in a debate. That format I just described, each debate, 8 people participate. One debate takes 22 minutes mathematically. We can fit 3 debates into a 100-minute class with time to spare, which means everybody debates every time the class meets. We also have rankings of who the top debaters were. What we are going to do on July 7th, we are going to have a quarterfinal in the class tournament. We will take of the top 8 by student ranking. You will debate one another one-on-one with a slightly different format where you make multiple speeches. And then there'll be a vote at the end of that debate. Each time if you lose the debate, you're eliminated, which means the following week, the last class meeting, 8 debaters are down to 4. We will then have semifinal debates. The ones losing those will be eliminated. The final 2 will debate each other to be the class champion. That's the format for how debating is going to work. And what that does is that lets me jump back over to Moodle and show you where the arguments are going to come from. Submit your arguments here. That brings up a Google form. You could find out right after class, or during class if you want to tune me out for a minute, what the debate topics are going to be, because they're all in this form, right there where it says which topic is this for. There are 18 of them. 6 fact topics, 6 value topics, 6 policy topics. You are assigned to come up with an argument for and an argument against 2 topics. The wrinkle is, and I'll remind you of this between now and June, you need to look and see which topics people have already submitted arguments for, because only the first 6 arguments submitted on a topic get credit. If you look and there are already 6, you need to pick a different topic. And you might think, where do I look? You look, not there, you look here. And that brings up a spreadsheet. That form dumps to this spreadsheet, and you can sort it. If you sort by the topic, you'll see how many there are on that topic. You sort by side, affirmative, negative. Affirmative is for the topic, negative is against the topic. You can count up how many arguments have been made. Then you know if you can submit your argument and get credit for it. What this will do is we will have a lot of arguments submitted for every topic. And then the day you come to class to debate those, the only arguments that will be made in those debates are arguments that are in the spreadsheet. What sometimes scares people about debating is, what if they say something and I didn't think of it and I don't know what to say? But you're going to know every argument that you could possibly hear because they're all in the spreadsheet. And let me show you this. In this space, type the best answer you can think of that would disprove this argument. So everybody who submits an argument, while they submit it, they also have to submit the answer to the argument. So if you, before you come to class, look at the spreadsheet, you know every argument that's going to be made, and you also know a good answer to every argument. That is the format by which we're going to do this. What I'm going for there is to encourage you to be cooperative, not to get so competitive, so intense that you wind up yelling at each other. But it could be you might debate the person sitting next to you, and you might win the debate on an argument they thought up. That's how real debate teams work. They share their arguments with each other. All right. The other moving part of this class is homework. This homework is very, very simple. You get to work on it on your own time. The due date for it is the beginning of the last class meeting in June. Here's what it consists of. There is a podcast in the United States called Intelligence Squared. The podcast episodes consist of debates, pretty good ones usually, and on some pretty interesting topics. So I have picked 17 of them. And you get to pick, that one might be popular. Should college athletes be paid? You get to pick 5 that interest you. Let's use should college athletes be paid for you to see what the homework consists of. At the start of that quiz, you click there and it will play the debates. They are about 40 minutes long. Then the questions. Best argument you heard? Worst argument you heard? Who did a better job answering all their opponents' arguments? Who gave the best last speech in the debate? And who do you vote for, the affirmative or the negative? I'll say affirmative. Did the team who won your vote argue the side you agree with? Yes, no, or I don't have a side. And then, here's the wrinkle. Oh, come on, work. There. Click here to find out who won the debate. Oh, and this quiz will not let you go back. You record who you think won. Then you go on to the next page. You find out who did win. They do it by audience vote. Did the audience vote the same way you did? If they did, you're done. If you voted for the affirmative and the audience voted for the negative, you just write me a few sentences. Why do you think that happened? You were sure one side had won, but the audience voted for the other side. What do you think happened? And then you submit it. Between now and June, you do that to 5 debates. That's your homework. I have about 2 more things I want to show you. I want to show you right underneath the syllabus, there's a link that says lecture recordings. That's a YouTube playlist with nothing in it. I'm recording. I'm going to record every time. And I upload these recordings to YouTube. Now, occasionally the equipment fails me. So often Students will ask at the first class meeting, is it okay if I record you? And my answer is yes. If you want to record me, you can. A few times, when my equipment hasn't worked right, we've used a student recording to replace mine. So you can do that if you want. But right when class ends, I will put this recording there. And if you have to miss class, just listen to the recording. There will also be, right underneath there, it should start, I think it turns visible right as class ends at 3 p.m. The Google Slides that I had a little while ago with the pictures, that will be linked here. Now today, there's not much in it you need to see, unless you like the picture of me with the long hair. But in the future, when the slides have a little more to do with the content, there will be a link to the slides at the end of class. Right at 3 p.m., it will turn visible. So if you want to take careful notes, you can. Taking notes, the research tells us, is a good way to pay attention and consolidate your learning during class. But if you don't want to, if you want to sit back and just listen, everything that shows up on the screen will be available right at the end of class. Final thing that I have not mentioned is recommended readings. I did not get into Moodle until this week, so I'm a wee small bit behind. That's all up since Monday. These two readings, Hampel, Mercier, and Sperber, they are what I will be talking about next week. Now, I'm not assigning them. You can read them if you are the kind of person who understands things better if you have something to read. If that's you, I'd recommend reading these. If, on the other hand, you honestly learn better if someone talks to you, and then maybe you read after to fill in what you didn't get, you can wait and read after class. I don't quiz people. I am at the point in my higher education career where I don't fight the battle to get people to read the assigned reading. It's available to you. Check it out if what I am talking about makes you curious. That is where it will be. Any future recommended readings will go in that folder. Now, I am going to try, because I never stop being optimistic, to see if anybody has a question you want to ask about anything I've said so far. Then what we're going to do is what I promised you a while ago we're going to do. I'm going to pause the recording. I realized that there's a talk I had on Tuesday that a couple of people in here will remember that I think it would benefit you to hear. So you're going to hear it once again impromptu. It starts off scary, but relax. It won't be scary by the end. Here's the scary part. At Bushnell University in the United States, I am known as the hardest professor on campus. As in, more students fail my classes than any other professor at that university. That's the scary part, but I promised I'd make it better. I'm scary and I'm tough on that campus because I've taught in that country for 30 years and on that campus for 15. Here, I am brand new. Because I am brand new, I believe in something they teach doctors in medical school, which is, first, do no harm. So I'm not going to design a hard, demanding class when I've never taught this population before. So what I have designed is an easy class. Let's talk about these assignments for a moment. The homework. If you answer all the questions and I read it and it made sense, you get 100. Argument submission. If the argument makes basic sense and we could use it in the debate, you get 100. Debate participation. If you show up, you read the arguments to where you're familiar with them kind of and you try, you get 100. Daily communication thermostat. If you fill it out, you get 100. Are you noticing a theme? I think there will be a lot of A's in this class. The only people I think who are not going to get an A are the people who don't turn stuff in. So just stay on top of when things are supposed to happen, and you're going to do great. So that question was, how will it be graded? I'm going to pause there because you might have follow-up questions about how will I grade it. Do you have any? Then let me go back to the question box, because there was one other question, and there may be some others on the way. Let's see. Yeah, we're up to 3. Bump. And you can see, by the way, these are anonymous. Let's see. That's not showing everything. Come on. Why are you doing this? That one doesn't want to expand. That's bump. Let me see if I can do it that way. No, it didn't like that. Bump. Yeah, Moodle is... Let me see if I don't go into grade. If I go into the other thing, view all submissions, that might show it to me. Yeah. Oh, perfect. Much better. You said about someone being in the finals, semifinals, and the people who cannot make it, are they going to get less marks? Easy question. Absolutely not. The class champion will not get 1 more point than the person who comes in dead last through the 3 debates, so long as the person who comes in last in the 3 debates came to every debate, read the arguments ahead of time, and tried. You can be bad at debate and still get 100. I spent years bad at debate. You're still learning. Okay, take it, please.
If that is the case,
Yes.
Is there any reward for the finalists?
What is written into the assignment instructions is, if you want the participation debate, 2 things you have to do. First, if you are ranked by your classmates high enough that you go to the quarterfinals, the semis, and the finals, you have to keep at least trying. And I said 2 things. This is kind of implied by the first. If you're trying to throw it, if you're trying to deliberately lose because you don't want to keep debating, it's going to be pretty obvious. Just do your best. And as long as you're doing your best, you're going to get the credit on the assignment. And you never know, you might get to where you're enjoying it, and your competitive fire might take over. And I'm not making this up, it's not a bad thing to be able to put on your resume or answer in a job interview question that I was the class champion in my argumentation class. You know, putting my argument skills up against my cohort, I rose to the top of the class. That can make a really good job interview answer. And I could show you the research to back that up. Okay, so, more follow-ups or are we good? Take it. All you want.
What was it? Oh, yeah. But I want to postulate an idea.
Go for it.
Which is maybe you can bring in some kind of food like pizza, donuts, cake, cookies. You know, one of those.
What was
just
that?
A little bit.
What was that last one you mentioned again?
Cookies?
Not making this up. That's actually one of my mutant powers. I make really good chocolate chip cookies, and I can make them gluten-free. So it's just entirely possible we might have some chocolate chip cookies as awards for the people who do well. This is why you should ask questions. Yes, yes. Okay. Let me see if the question box has any more treats for me. Okay, there are 3 submissions, and yet, although there's one, and that looks like that's, oh no, there we go. Okay. Can you provide a guideline for the June debates? As we get closer to the debates, actually, let me show you on the syllabus. Ba-boom. 3 weeks from today, April 28th, will be debate basics. You're going to know step by step everything that happens in a debate. Then, starting about 2 weeks after that, we are going to get type of debate topics, evidence and case construction, negative strategy. That'll take you further into this is what you do when the debates happen. And you'll effectively have almost a recipe in each speech. These are the things that need to happen. So if you're ready with that, you'll do great. It's very scripted. Now, does anyone want to ask a follow-up on that question? Or is that the information you were asking for? Please.
So just that you have just mentioned about being scripted, so just wondering if for something that we do not want to follow the script, would that be affect to the effectiveness of the...
So what if you're in the middle of a debate and you want to do something unusual? Speaking as someone who coached debaters who sometimes, I called them tactics of desperation, sometimes they worked, sometimes they learned a painful lesson, and so what I would coach them is, you are absolutely free to try anything you like, you better be right, and if it turns out you aren't right, I hope you learn from it. That's my answer to you. I wouldn't lower your grade because of it. The only things in a debate I would lower someone's grade for, I can think of two things. You come so unprepared that you're wasting everybody's time, and that's rare. Or you misbehave in a way that's hurtful to other people. You insult other people. Don't do that. What we called verbal aggression, don't do that. But trying something unexpected, we might get a good conversation out of it. Like, did you see what the government whip in this debate tried to do? It was creative because, do you think it was effective? Is there a way they could have done it differently that would have worked better? Yeah, those, we could learn a lot from those. I've kind of talked round and round your question, but do you? Okay, cool. All right, let me get back to the third question and see if we have any others. Boom. Still at 3, and I have now learned, I go there. And I'm on the third one, and I'm seeing nothing. Oh no, there it is. Boom. Are we allowed to eat or drink in class, or are there any other specific rules that you have? Are there any other rules that I have? Eat or drink. My rule for eating and drinking is, as long as I don't notice it, it's allowed. If you make me notice it, it's not allowed. But here's what I mean by that. Chiefly, the rule against eating and drinking is don't spill it. And if you are coordinated enough that you don't spill it, I probably won't notice it. And if you make me notice it, I'm going to say, you know that wasn't allowed, right? So that's my answer to that. Do I have any other rules? I wouldn't say rules, but while you were talking, I realized there's one other thing I need to tell everybody at the first class meeting, which is I'm almost completely deaf in this ear. And so when you come and talk to me, you may have noticed it already. I do this. That's because this ear hears and this one doesn't. And sometimes it's a natural human instinct to want to make eye contact, and I'll turn the hearing ear towards someone and they'll move. And then we do this. And we actually did a little bit of it during that 10-minute discussion that you were all having. So when you come to talk to me, if I do that, that's why. It's not that I don't want to look at you. That's not a rule, but it is something you ought to know. Do I have any rules? I really can't think of any. Okay. Are there, finally, any questions that didn't get asked or didn't get put in the question box, but that came up when you talked to each other, and you want to just raise your hand and ask? There's nothing magic about the question box. Are we feeling good about it? Feeling like we know what to do? Between now and next week, this is probably a good thing to talk about very briefly, because I was eavesdropping a little, and the due dates for when the arguments have to get submitted are 1 week ahead of time. So we're having fact debates June 16th. The fact debate arguments are due June 9th. That's probably the closest thing I have to a rule. This says 11:55 p.m. One thing that hasn't changed, even though I'm over here and being easy, is I am brutally ruthless on deadlines. So when I say we're not taking any fact arguments after 11:55 on June 9th, I mean 11:56 is too late. My reason for that is your classmates need that full week. So get the arguments to me by a week before we're using them. I don't think anything else in here. Well, the other thing that has a deadline is the daily communication thermostat, midnight the day of. And I really mean midnight the day of. So I guess I'm kind of strict on deadlines. That's the closest thing I have to a rule. Yes, the conversation was you could jump in and you could put in all your arguments now and it was first come, first served. I wouldn't do that if I were you. The form is built around the Toulmin model, Stephen Toulmin's argument model. We're not going to talk about it until May. I'm betting if you put your arguments in tonight, you'll mess it up. So sit back, look at the list of arguments, do a little reading and thinking and daydreaming, and wait until about May 12th, and then you can intelligently and correctly put your arguments in, and you have about a month. And you have to, grand total, come up with 12 arguments in a month. Okay, did that make anyone think of a question? Okay. If you feel like you are fully in the picture on everything having to do with this class, I will inflict on you my one other bit of Christian practice, which I'm going to do at the end of every meeting, whether you like it or not. So there's this place in the Bible where the Bible prescribes how you bless people. And there's a blessing, and I learned it in Japanese. And I am going to practice it. And it's going to be the last thing I do at every class meeting. I'm going to send you off having blessed you, just so you'll have a good week. And you can laugh at my Japanese pronunciation, but I hope every week it gets a little bit better. So here we go. Shu ga anata o shukufuku shi anata o mamoremasu you ni. Shu ga mika o anata ni terashi anata ni megomarimasu you ni. Shu ga mika o anata ni muke anata ni heian o adairaremasu you ni. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen. See you next week.